Hey Sandeep, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Adrian. To be here and good to connect again after quite some time with you.
For our listeners, could you give a brief introduction about yourself and what you're doing?
I work for a Dutch technology SaaS company based out of Singapore. I head operations and HR. When I say operations, it's inclusive of the M&A piece. It's inclusive of setting up new entities, setting up new regions, pretty much focused on the sales, marketing, and the engineering domains. So that's pretty much I've been working. Otherwise, I come from a core M&A background, HR M&A to be precise. I've worked for Accenture and Cognizant, leading the M&A verticals for Southeast Asia, Japan, India in the past as well. I also come with a fair amount of experience with setting up new tech entities or R&D hubs across the region. So pretty much I cover currently all of the Asias as of now, and pretty much into the growth phase with this organization.
Key focus today is really to talk about the future of HR, and a very interesting topic for us to deep dive into. But prior to that, could you help us to understand from your opinion and your understanding the history of HR and how it has evolved over time?
HR, I think in the current form is not what actually HR was started out to be, right? I think historically the world was pretty much into farming, industrial productions, and more of manufacturing, I would say. I think it started off with farming. It started off with movement of people around countries in ships for working in farms and stuff like that. So I think historically it was about managing these set of people who worked in the farms and the industries, trying to enable social programs for them. Maybe at that point in time, the social programs were just like foods and drinking in the taverns, right? And then it moved on to ensuring safety for them, possibly because they were working in farms, they were working in industries, hammers and tongs, so leading to accidents, leading to fights between them. So dispute resolution was the third point, right? Right from managing people, their social programs, their safety, and dispute management, right? So then it moved on to provisioning of, say, housing and food, and that led to the whole word term called industrial relations, right? So HR predominantly started off as IR and not HR. So when IR became a more commoditized moved on to trade unions, and then moved on to training people for certain amount of skills and jobs to work in certain kind of factories and certain kind of industries. So I think in due course of time, after the 1960s, the American Revolution, right, the IT industry started replicating all these formats, I would say, in a more sexier way or a cool way, right? Your IR became HR, and then all these departments became, started getting democratized into unionization, legal, training, employee relations, recruiting, and today we have comp and ben, M&A. So I think historically it started from farming, then industrial, and then production, moving on to the IR piece, and then today's piece of HR. And I think it's continuously evolving with the advent of AI and ChatGPT coming into play. A lot of roles are going to get transitions as well. Yeah.
What is your current opinion on the future of HR? And I do understand you have some very far-leaning opinion on this. So I hope you'll be open to share with us on your opinion. And of course, importantly, why do you think so?
In the current format, or the format that's been existing for the last 5-10 years, I think HR is going to die a slow death, right? It has to transform, it has to translate into a more deliverable form. I think in the current stage, it's on a downward trend, right? We're moving into tools, we're moving into systems, we're moving into more of data analysis. A lot of this is being done without human intervention, right? A lot of it is taking place in terms of moving from recruitment personnel to recruitment tools to be able to, enable faster hiring decisions. Yes, you do require humans, no doubt. You do require people to play a strong role, but systems are learning faster. You need people now to take care of systems rather than take care of doing all these jobs. So there's a lot of transition, and the transitional rate is pretty fast, I would say. It's the last 5 years and the last 2 years in specific. In fact, even COVID time, there's been a massive change in the way HR has actually functioned. You realize today that in the 2 years where you didn't have people working in office, you saw quite a change of turn of how HR was actually functioning. You didn't have people in the office sitting on the desks. You didn't have people to talk to, all online, right? You saw that massive change in this way that HR had started working. I think COVID also taught us that, orgs have become more flatter, extremely flat organizations. There are self-help tools which came into play, and they are massively progressive in the startup industry now. So I'm a part-time venture capitalist, so I'm fond of HR tech, and I see this advent of massive amount of self-help tools for companies coming into play. What's also happened is that the managerial structures have started getting, going away. You don't have management anymore. You have people across levels being treated equally, not based on levels and managers. So there's a lot of flexibility in the kind of work that's happening. And I think the bigger part was that last 2-3 years showed us that managers need not be designated by titles anymore. You could be a manager anyhow. So with all this, right, where did HR erstwhile play a role in selecting managers, selecting people, doing things for people? Maybe, if I had to be more kind of standardized in terms of what did they actually do? Were they more of listeners? Were they more of givers? So everything is moving from a person orientation to a system orientation, with a person managing the systems today. HR is no longer going to be a wish list provider. We're all wish list providers, if I had to be very blunt about this term. An employee says, I want this. Oh, yes, we'll do it for you. An employee says, this, I'll do it for you. So in this era of hyper personalization, right, it's like treating employees as customers today, and every employee, irrespective of the level, is a separate entity. So how long will a human be able to manage individual expectations? So it's moving towards systems, it's moving towards technology. I think HR in this current form will not be able to sustain that, because it's inhumanly possible. And then with the advent of systems, technology coming in, I see a lot of senior, seasoned HR folks who are still stuck with the mentality of process policy. That's not going to be working anymore. You can't have people being restrictive, being in a restrictive environment, and HR leaders trying to create policies and processes. And you need to have basic structure, but the erstwhile thinking is on the downgrade, I would say. So I say next 5 years is going to see a huge change with the advent of a lot of technology coming, and the players like the Googles, the IBMs, doing a phenomenal amount of work in this transitional phases.
Rich, you also arrived to another situation, right? I mean, when we look at the state of HR right now, we don't really see many CHRO becoming CEO of companies. Could what you have mentioned be one of the possibility, because they are never business-centric, they're never ROI or number-centric, which is why they always reach the CHRO level, and that in itself become a glass ceiling for them?
Yes and no. I think in the very recent past, somewhere around 2022, early 22, I think, this lady, Leena Nair, she was a CHRO of Unilever for a very long time, and she took on the CEO's role, global CEO. That's not a small feat, right? So there is a glass ceiling that has been broken, right? I can also quote you the current CEO of GE, Mary Barra, right? She's also an ex-HR. She's worked in the HR for a fair amount of time. While she comes from a different background, but the road path to her journey to becoming CEO was through HR. I don't remember one of the Xerox CEOs as well in the past. That person was also through the HR journey as well. So I think what's common in all these people, right? Becoming a CEO is not an end result, but going through the whole journey, right? Going through the whole operations journey, understanding marketing, understanding sales. A lot of engineers, right, at a certain stage move into management, right? When so many engineers, some of the engineers tend to stick on to moving towards an architect role, right? They want to be individual contributor. You see, marketing and sales is pretty much management from the day one. So you're meeting people, you're getting things done, you're selling, you're influencing, right? And what's a CEO? CEO is a large scale influencer, including HR. I think it's difficult at this stage because a lot of CHROs they don't have that core business mindset. They're unable to decipher ROI. They're unable to decipher what are business lines. So a lot of HR partners that I interview, right, just as an example. So a lot of HR partners come with this minds that I have been able to reduce attrition in my previous role, and hence I'm fit for a particular role. I've been able to do this, and this. I set up this policy, I set up that policy. Fair, you were able to reduce attrition, but tell me how much of dollar value, how much of bottom lines were you able to save? Do you have a number? I'm not looking at the number actually, but I'm at least looking at an approach by which a person would start thinking numbers as to I reduce attrition from 18% to a 12% or a 10% to a 6%. There's a delta of reduction. How does that delta translate to bottom line sales? What did you do? Otherwise, it's just standard process and policy, right? So coming back to the point, all these people who became CEOs went through that business grind. They went through the sales journey. They understood what different kinds of sales structures. They understood the kind of technology that people are working on. They were able to speak the business language. End of the day, you have to get into core business fundamentals, not sticking to being maybe a wish list provider, as I would like to call it, right? Or a process or a policy expert. Being able to ensure that you're generating revenue streams, that's a very critical role of a CEO. Right. So all these people who become CEOs from the HR stream were able to do that. So I hope that our fraternity starts thinking of, a role in that fashion. I hope our fraternity starts being more open-minded towards being aligned to business outcomes rather than sticking on to being wish list providers, doing performance management cycles. Yeah, that's a fair part of your role, actually, right? Compensation analysis, benefits analysis. So that's a year-long structure. You ask any HR, this is typically the year-long structure that they follow, right? I'm doing compensation. Oh, that's performance happening. And you do the reviews. There's off-cycle happening, and the hiring is happening. So it's a standard. But how many of them would tell you, I need to be ensuring that my team reaches sales of this much. I need to ensure that my ROI of this company is 3x. Last year we were 2x. How many CHROs are able to do that? We are able to do that, then the road to becoming CEO or anything, it's not just CEO. CEO is just a term, I would say. But the road to being a business enabler becomes easy.
On that note, for people who are keen to learn more about what you have shared with them and also what you do, where can they go to?
I'm on LinkedIn, Sandeep Chanana, SANDEEP CHANANA. I'm based out of Singapore. I am a mentor. I do mentor a lot of young HR graduates passing out from the Singaporean colleges, but pretty much into the Asian region as well. So feel free to reach out to me, and Adrian has my details. So if anyone is not able to find me, reach out to Adrian, and free to reach out. Yeah.
All this will be added into the show notes to make it easy for all listeners to reach out to Sandeep. Sandeep, thank you so much for making time today. Really enjoyed speaking with you to help us better understand the essence of HR, the history, the evolution, how they should really position themselves to make sure that they are better future-proof, and all the association thinking behind it. Thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Thank you, Adrian. Pleasure speaking to you. Bye-bye.